We're going to begin here with what you would know, what we would know to be as abstract. And yet look at the difference. Notice how that 19 is between 53 and 41. Notice how the 63 is connected to that 64. Okay, so this now, from 2027 and in future, the experiential circuit of the rave now has this keynote of collect. Collect. So if we look at our current body graph that we're familiar with, Homo sapiens and transitus, the collective abstract circuitry has this keynote of sharing. Whereas in the rave, the keynote will be collect. So no longer about sharing, okay? Collecting, just, you could say blind collecting rather than sharing. So the theme of the abstract, as we know it, is experiential, and the basic components of the abstract, as we understand them, it looks like it's present here, or the channels that we would see as part of the sensing circuit or abstract circuitry, definitely we can see them there. But obviously, fundamental differences that are here is really the key for us to grasp what is going on in this mutated circuit for those raves. Collect. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at here to focus our attention on is that both of these areas are deeply significant and intrinsically related to the 49th gate. That is the key sources and implementers, if you will, of the 2027 completion of the mutative process. So remember, we had that 49 down here floating around in the middle of the solar plexus, the mutated solar plexus, and 49 is part of the mutation. Opposite the 49 is the 4. So the relationship between these two particular gates, we're looking at the polarity of the 49th gate in the wheel. We know that that is part of an arm of a cross then, the ability to have revolution or formalization or principles or explanation as key terms. So what you'll notice here is that the 19th gate and the 49th gate are separated just by 1 hexagram, so very close, biologically speaking. Channel of synthesis going through its final dying, mutative, and rebirth, you can see, after the Pluto hits that 41st hexagram in the line 5. So the 19th gate, which was the harmonic in the channel of synthesis before 2027, that the relationship to the 49 changes the way that our so-called abstract process is going to operate. So no longer abstract, still experiential, but now in the mutated form, about collecting, not sharing. So Homo sapiens, if we think about the abstract circuitry, what do we know about sensing? It's the sensing circuit. The two collective circuits in the human being is to share or sharing, right? So we have the abstract and we have the logic, both about sharing. But the abstract, when it comes to all of us who carry an element of this in our design, it's sharing for sharing's sake. It's not personal. It's collective, which is why social media is so much fun for some of us who like to share, sharing for sharing's sake. And if you're purely abstract in this way, and when it comes to the experience, no experience is an experience worth having if you're going to go through it absolutely, utterly alone. These are people who want to have that shared reality, shared experience. Because if you have the experience alone, one of the reasons why Ross says this, and try to remember that this 41 is the pressure, start code on, the pressure to have a shared group experience, large group. And so what happens is if you have it alone, quote, he says, it all goes down the toilet because there is no one to blame. Remember, unquote, we have the great gate of blame here, the 35th gate. He says, I'm not kidding, quote, you need to share that experience, unquote. So the drive to share one's fantasies or sexuality, you know, remember that this really is a need, a genetic need. We have to share our memories. We have to share our stories, our belief systems. So absolutely different, the sharing of the experience. When we take a look at how we as human beings operate in the shared reality, our process of our discoveries and our cycles of experience through the consequences of that. When we look at this keynote in the Rave, Ra loved it as a pun on the collective or a play on the theme of the collective, because you just drop the iv and now all we've got left is collect. So that's how you can remember it. Drop the iv. We've just got collect. It's not about sharing experience anymore. It's just collect in a rave. So if we go back for a moment to remember that the Ajna is about conceptualization, the great conceptualizing domain, the glory of what it is to be human, having a neocortex, which includes the visual cortex, all of that right here are self-reflective consciousness. And if we look up here at the head center, where there is all this stored information in a human being, what we're looking at is the deep gray areas of the brain, according to Ra, what we think of as places where there is stored information. Now, that is about the collective abstract circuit, keynote of sharing. When we think about what it is to be human, what it is to be human is that you are pressured by certain information that you can access, and that pressure becomes the bedrock of making sense out of developing ideas and stimulating other people with our experience, our shared human experience, and the potential of what that experience can bring when it comes to making sense of things. The past. Okay, so this is the sharing human process. But if we change things and we go into the future, and we take a look at raves and what they will be about, the thing that is so interesting in this process is that the experiential is no longer limited to the flow of information that is triggered by the 64. According to Ra, it's the other way around in raves. So instead of what we just looked at in a human, in a rave, we are going to look at not finding sense through the idea, but actually the deconstruction of the idea into its senseless bits, stored perfectly so that they can be reassembled. So think about that for a moment. See the reverse of the energetic flow. Collect, simply for collection's sake, not to make sense of, but deconstructing into its bits so that can be reassembled. Not pressure going out, but now in a rave, we're looking at absorption. It's the taking in. And what's opening up here is that not the pressure going out into the world of form, but the absorption of being able to take in all kinds of no reason, no formula. You don't see a 4 there, no formula. We're taking in information that is senseless through this theme of collect in these raves. Again, according to Ra, human beings will not be able to connect with individual raves. With their penta, maybe a select few with them in a penta, but not individual raves. They will just be having the ability to store what is. So you'll notice there's no individuality here, no 61st gate to give it the whole cross-section of knowing. No interference from the unknowable, the mystery. So that in the abstract process with this head center, that 64th gate, we know it as the past confusion. We know the 63 is about doubt and the future. What Ra would call, quote, Solomon gates, nothing new under the sun. These are the gates of what is. It's the enormous ability to be able to store the what is with no interference from the unknowable, unquote. So the experience is not about answers. There's no for. It's just about needing experience for experience sake. And it's not about what it is. It doesn't matter what the experience is. It's just about taking it in. And raves are going to be driven by this deep pressure of the 19 cut off from its gods, its drive to find its place within tribal hierarchy, its eating of meat. It is driven by that deep pressure of the 19 down at the bottom.